Hey everybody, welcome to another replay in the Covenanted, this time on Mines. Still platooned up with Ultron. He's brought his Su-85B to this fight. And it looks like my XVM stats are not loading, which isn't too much of a problem anyway because bugged win rates.
Time to roll out.
After the last couple matches, I decided to play some low tier games, try and blow off steam, and figured that the Covenant would be a good tank to do this in. Well, under normal circumstances, yes, it would be. I go straight for the hill, quick enough to get there before pretty much most of the enemy team. Some of them do have the speed to get to the hill, but obviously they didn't even try. One sees out on the island, and none of the enemy mediums have pushed up here. Eventually though, they do start moving up. We've got a Sherman 3 and an M4 Sherman. I don't want to deal with them head on, so I leave my teammates to distract them while I find a way around. Now, Covenant's excellent gun depression really comes in handy here. I'm able to fire down from pretty much anywhere on the top of the hill here without having to worry about hanging over the edge and exposing too much of my tank.
Ready to fire. Where they go?
And this 40mm Bofors gun is absolutely fantastic for dealing with other low tier tanks, and it's not too bad for dealing with tier 5s either. I am facing KV-1 and an AT-2 here, so I switched to APCR. They do have pretty tough armor to get through, even for this thing. I bounced off the AT-2, but I was able to get at least a couple of shots into the KV-1. I don't want to linger too long on that side of the mountain since I may have drawn their attention, and so I switch over to this side instead.
Enemy armor is damaged.
The B1 has got his back turned to me. It's a mistake that's going to cost him dearly. Artie does take a shot at me, but it doesn't do very much damage. All it does is knock out my driver and track me. Now it's a bishop, and it is continuing to shoot at me, so I don't want to stay there any longer than I have to. However, I would like to knock this KV-1S out if I can. So I quickly knock down his cover and take the last couple of shots before sliding off the hill to deal with the Su-85B. However, the T-14 deals with him first, and so I turn around to see what I can do about the remaining enemy tanks on the hill and their artillery. Unfortunately for me, they happen to be turning around and coming to try and knock myself and the T-14 out. Narrowly avoid a shot from the Sherman there and run for dear life while still firing at the Sherman to see if I can just do anything to pen it or at least scare it away. Unfortunately, I am now out of APCR, and the Sherman's front armor is more than enough to bounce most of my 40mm AP. So rather than try and engage them frontally, I go for the enemy Artie, hoping to at least inflict as much damage as I possibly can before the Sherman catches up. In hindsight, I probably should have run up to the right side, knocked out the Lorraine, and then jumped off the cliff and run away that way. I might have survived a bit longer, but hindsight's perfect. I was able to take out the bishop and then get a damaging shot into the Lorraine before the Sherman came and ended my shit. So with 1500 damage in a tier 4, that's a pretty solid result no matter how you look at it. Unfortunately, we now have this T-14 left as the last tank on our team, and of course the Guerrilla in support of him, but the T-14 is just hopelessly bad. Now, a well-driven T-14 could easily dunk this Sherman and rescue the game. Unfortunately, this T-14 is anything but well-driven, and in fact is so busy trying to, I don't even know, blow himself up with HE against a wall next to him, that the Sherman just rolls right up on him and wrecks him.
The gunner's wounded. He'll have a hard time hitting anything.
The enemy Ardy joins in, but it doesn't need help out as this Sherman well and truly has this handled. You have to be really, really bad to lose to a Sherman 3 in a T-14 in a Tier 5 match. Really, really, really bad. And so this Sherman, who has done really nothing to deserve a Radley Walters medal, is just about to get one. If anything, this has taught me one important thing, which is to load more APCR in my Covenanter, because really, although the gun usually doesn't need it, I'm going to end up having to carry Tier 5 games, and it just doesn't have the pen to deal with some, well, actually probably most Tier 5s frontally. And you can't flank a Sherman quite so easily as you can flank something like a KV or an AT2. So I'll have to get right on that, I think. Got more than enough AP shells, I just need to load more APCR. And of course HE is absolutely useless in the Covenanter because it's only a 40mm gun. Now here our Guerrilla could possibly have clutched the game, but unfortunately his shotgun completely misses. He manages to hit the debris in front of the Sherman instead of hitting the Sherman itself, and the Sherman has all the time in the world to finish him off. When you need to shotgun somebody in an Ardy, you need to hold your shot until you are damn sure that either you're about to die or you're going to hit them. You can't just blow your shot off the second you see an enemy and then expect that to work. If you have a pretty strong idea they're just about to fire at you and, you know, it's either now or never, then sure. But otherwise, hold your shot until the very latest possible moment to guarantee the best chance of hitting, because I see so often people just taking rushed snapshot shotguns that will never ever hit in a million years, and there's no reason to do it. You need to take your time. You need to make sure that the hit actually, well, that the shot actually hits. You need to make it count, because if you're at the stage where you're down to a shotgunning Ardy being the one thing that can reverse the outcome of the game, really you need to be making sure it counts. You can't just mash left mouse and hope for the best. Anyway, so much for blowing off steam. Instead, I end up having a 1500 damage tier 4 match, which gets lost because of a bot T14. Awesome. This isn't the first huge damage game I've had in the Covenanter. It certainly won't be the last. This tank is really quite good. It's basically broken when it's in a tier 4 or 5 match, as long as you know what you're doing in it. The second you get shot at by anything, you're pretty much fucked. But if you can avoid getting shot at by things, like I did here for the vast majority of the game, you can put out an enormous amount of damage in a very short amount of time. The gun is fantastic, and as of the next version, 9. Actually, I'm not sure if it's in 9.7 or if it was 9.8. I think it's 9.8 it's happening. The firing range, sorry, I'm trying to think of words here, of all low-tier autocannons, which includes the Bofors gun on the Covenanter, is being increased by 50 meters, from 350 to 400 meters, which will make this thing even stronger. Will also serve to make the Hotchkiss much stronger with the 25mm gun, which is probably the best gun for that tank. So I could certainly see myself playing more low tiers in the future. Unfortunately though, low tier games are very unpredictable. A lot of new players, obviously, for understandable reasons, but also a lot of just the absolute worst of the shitters, because they can't play well in their high tier tanks, so they come back to low tiers and try and stat pad and fail. If you've ever seen CIA, notorious for running T127 platoons, because the T127 is really, really strong at tier. They're all horrifically bad players, and they just hang around in low tiers. Like, most of them, their average tiers are 2 or 3, because all they do is play low tiers and try and beat up on new players, which usually works, of course, because they fire gold and they're driving T127s, but the moment they come up against a good player, they usually get their shit kicked in. And so low tiers are kind of a weird environment where you have a tiny smattering of good players who are, just trying to blow off steam or trying to grind up through a new line from the start. And then you have a bunch of stat badders, people who want to be special and want to have good stats and want to be good but don't know how to do it. And then you have a shit ton of new players. So the games tend to just be completely unpredictable. Things happen that really shouldn't. A lot of these tanks can die in 1 or 2 shots. And so the slightest mistake can cost you a game. So I generally prefer to play high tier tanks, unless I just feel like clowning around. But if you do want to clown around, the Covenanter is certainly one of the better options to do it in. Anyway, hope you enjoyed the video a lot more than I enjoyed watching that T14 throw the match. As ever, I wish you the best of luck in the field, and I'll see you on the next video.